goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will.
Welcome to Perspective, a podcast for wedding creators, where we sit down often with special guests and talk about our many years of experience in the wedding industry so you can learn from us and grow your wedding business. And who the fuck are we? I'm Simon, and this is the world's greatest wedding filmmaker. Together, we are Cinemate Films, two Scottish-based wedding filmmakers who love nothing more than drinking coffee and talking shop with others in the industry. This episode is, of course, sponsored by Jack, but I will get onto that a little bit later in the show. Greg, who are we talking to today?
We are talking to Andy Gaines. Hello, Andy. How you doing?
Andy Gaines. Hello.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Very well.
Awesome. I'm great, thank you. Great. Perfect way to spend a Wednesday morning, in my opinion, is this.
Well,
So I am.
We'll ask you whether that statement is true by the end of the podcast episode. And then
Yeah, okay, fine. The jury can stay out. I'll let you know.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
And sorry, my mic is a wee bit funny. Yeah. Have you got yourself a drink? You caffeinated? You all the good stuffs?
I've got myself a decaffeinated coffee because that's how I roll now.
Oh, can you? What's your flask that you've got right there?
Mate, I got this from Pick Time.
Nice.
We also got the Pick Time goodies. So thank you, Pick Time, for sending us all lovely goodies.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? This is
yeah.
actually, because obviously, you go to all these conferences and events and all these kind of things, and you always end up picking up loads of like plastic tat.
Yeah.
And it's quite rare that you get something that's actually genuinely good. And
Yeah.
this is definitely up there with one of the actually genuinely useful pieces
Yes.
of sponsorship merchandise that I've collected over the years. So yeah.
Yes,
That's awesome.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to using mine on the first wedding, like proper good flask of coffee on the way to the wedding.
Yeah, yeah. Because I don't know about you, but I'm not very good at I'm very good at leaving flasks in the car, and so I've got two flasks in the car from our last weddings, unwashed, and I'm scared to open them.
Getting a bit of mold growing on the lid and stuff.
Yeah. It's not you can already start to smell them, which is not nice. But anyway,
Speaking of coffee,
thank you, Big Time. Oh yeah,
what's this? Because you said you brought in some new coffee.
Shout out to Dark Arts Coffee. We don't always do shout outs to coffee, but I've been on their subscription plan for freaking ages, and we're not sponsored. This is just a shout out for people who like good coffee. Dark Arts Coffee. This is the Extra, and I've been brewing this on the Chemex for a little while, and I've not actually been enjoying this one particularly too much, but through the machine it tastes better for some reason, so all good.
I was going to say that you guys, you're not sponsored by them yet.
We're not.
But then you proceeded to have one you didn't really like it. So I mean, maybe you don't want to get sponsored by those guys.
Well, all the other beans that I get are really good.
Yeah,
and I've been
Dark Arts are reliable.
Yeah. So
So if you're listening, Dark Arts, send them some coffee.
Yeah, but not the crap ones.
Yeah, only the good stuff.
Only the good stuff. So, and again, for those out there who haven't heard of who you are you? And tell us, or tell them, because we know what you do.
I am Andy Gaines, as you've already said. I'm lots of things, I guess, but for the purpose of this, I'm a wedding photographer based in York. Been shooting weddings all over the place now since, for goddamn ever, it feels like maybe 2011, so like 12 years or something. Mm-hmm. And then for the last few years, as well as shooting weddings, I've done kind of a bit of other things in the industry, kind of training and teaching and running conferences and events and running 9 Dots, which is a kind of community for wedding photographers. So yeah, that's pretty much me. I don't know how much more depth do people want, do you think?
Who knows?
Brushing the surface.
Go deep. Do you believe in God? Like, are you a nihilist? Are you
not on a Wednesday mornings?
Not on a Wednesday morning. Fair enough.
Well, when digging through your website, going a bit deeper, I noticed that you said that you transitioned from music into photography. So tell us a bit more about that. Like what style of music were you playing? What were you doing in the music industry?
Yeah. So like basically, I finished college, and then the guys I was in college with always played guitar. I've always played guitar and sung and that kind of thing. And then we decided to take when we finished uni and we didn't have like proper jobs, we thought we'd take like a gap year, you know, and like do our little band, you know, while we left for a little bit before we got real jobs. And we finished uni and we busked around Europe and then kind of spent a year kind of playing. And then that gap year turned into like a gap decade of like the lost years, which was great. So yeah, played guitar in a few bands. People who maybe followed obscure guitar-based blues indie rock in the early and mid noughties, you know, may have come across me in various small venues around the country. But yeah, and so did that for a few years, played in bands, and then that kind of evolved to York. Always had a really cool like live music scene, a really like strong independent small gig venues kind of music scene. And so I was kind of big involved in that and ended up establishing a little record label and putting out some music on that. And then when I kind of realized I was getting a little bit too old for the whole rock and roll game, ended up kind of drifting out of that and sort of stumbled into wedding photography really. And here I am.
Yeah. Well, so that was the change, that was the prompt. You just felt too old.
I mean, yeah, tongue in cheek, maybe not really. I mean, I still play now, so I'm obviously, it wasn't that old, but, yeah, just, you know, things have kind of run its course, you know, just noticed this incredible, like, God-like Jesus light shining through my window behind me.
I was just about to say, it's flickering, which is...
The angels have come down.
Don't go into that light.
I'm being pulled.
They're here listening to the podcast.
They are. They can drag him away. No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably quite annoying, but I'm going to leave it there. I'm really quite digging it. So I hope it doesn't ruin any filming that you've got going on.
Nah, I like it as well, man. I like it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no, so I wasn't like too old, but it just kind of run its course, you know, like I'd been in a couple of bands and we'd had like some success with them, you know, like we toured Europe and played lots of the big festivals and put some music out and things and done that with a couple of bands. But it just kind of, you know, things people were moving away and the scene was kind of changing and, you know, it was just kind of, it's a bit like Laurel Canyon in the LA, you know, in the mid 70s when the coke took hold and, you know, the hippies left and the money took over. It was a little bit like that, but in a small town in Yorkshire.
Small Yorkshire.
With a lot less money.
And but the same amount of coke.
Way more, more drugs and less money. But yeah, no, so that kind of just kind of, you know, reached its kind of conclusion. And I was like, what am I going to do with my life? And at that point, we are going deep now. So at that point, we like me and my girlfriend are pregnant with our first baby, Ida. And so that was kind of a thing that was happening. So I kind of needed to man up a little bit and, you know, I needed to get a proper job. So I sort of decided to become a wedding photographer. And I still haven't got a proper job yet, like 12 years later.
I was going to say, that's like the job that people are always asking. Oh, so what's your real job?
Yeah. Even now, I think even like my parents are still like, when are you going to get a proper job? I'm like, yeah, I'm working on it.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I've got some prints. You want some prints, Mom? How? So, I almost don't want to ask this question because I feel like it's every podcast that they talk about this, but I suppose everyone has a different answer. So, you're a family man. You have many hobbies. You have a dynamic career. How are you balancing all of these things? Do you have any struggles with the balance? Like,
I mean, yeah, for sure. Like with difficulty, eh? But I mean, yeah, you just kind of, it's like spinning plates, isn't it? It's always hard. You're always spinning plates, you know, big plates and little plates within the plates, you know, you can't do everything to 100 miles an hour all the time and expect it all to succeed. So you just, you know, I just kind of try my best to get by. I mean, I would say now I think it's probably getting a lot easier. Like our kids are in like proper school, big school, you know, now, and they're older and stuff. So they can look after themselves. So that's a bit more, you know, that takes a bit of demand off. And also we're shooting like progressively less and less weddings as the year has gone on. So back in the day, you know, I was shooting maybe 40 or 50 weddings a year for a couple of years. And that's kind of, that's wound down a lot now, like on purpose. So that helps. So I don't know, like, it's always a struggle, eh? You know, like you just have to do your best, keep on keeping on.
I was, I was obviously doing my research on you, and I didn't realize that you did ultramarathon racing.
Yeah, that's another thing. So that's something else. Yeah.
Tell me about that, because I quite like the metaphor between you saying it's like business isn't a sprint or whatever, to like, you know, is there like a mindset thing that you've garnered from doing ultra marathons, or are you just, you're crazy so you do ultra marathons, and you're crazy so you just run your business in a crazy way?
I mean, it could be that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the sort of the running thing, I've always been like into the outdoors. So before the music, going way back, this really is the Andy Gaines show, isn't it? But then I suppose
of course.
This is what it is, right? Yeah, that's why we're here. So, you know, so going way back, I used to do like lots of rock climbing. So that was my big thing. It was a teenager. And when I was like getting it, you know, going to uni, like rock climbing and mountaineering, that was my thing. So I did that for years, and I've always loved that. But obviously that sort of then takes a bit of a backseat when you end up in a band and traveling around and stuff. So that's always been a thing. And so I guess the running has kind of come out of that. So yeah, just always been into the mountains and, you know, backpacking and running and the kind of long running and the mountain running has kind of come out of that. So that's something I've always dabbled in a bit, but got really into the last kind of 4 or 5 years, I think.
Yeah.
Done a few sort of big challenges and things like that.
Yeah. So tell us, or actually, purely selfishly, I'd love to know more about ultra marathon racing. What it takes, what your training's like, what I mean, there are many different styles of ultra marathon races. So just chat away to me about running, because I find it super interesting.
So you just set off and you put one foot in front of the other, and you do that for a longer time than a normal race. No, but I don't know. But I mean,
yes.
There's a thing, like, I don't know, the whole ultra marathon thing, it's got the word ultra in front of it. So it must be ultra, extreme, you know? And I guess, I mean, it depends. It's all relative, right? You run a lot slower, but you go a bit further, you know? But to be honest, so a lot of, I don't know, a lot of people kind of just go out running, you know, like they do jogging and they go around the streets or whatever. And that's kind of cool. And I've done a lot of that, but it's kind of hard work, especially I don't know if you guys have done any running, but like running a long distance, like a marathon, 26 miles just on a road, just constant same pace, you know, just pounding the pavement. That's like that. I find that really, like, that's really hard work, obviously.
Thank God you said
once you throw in like the hills. So I do a lot of like fell running and kind of trail and off piste kind of stuff. For me, that's in a way, it's a lot easier because the variety makes it a lot more like varied. So you're not just flat out trying to hold a pace on a road while monotonously, like, you know, pounding the pavements. You know, you'll hit a steep bit. So you'll be walking or like power hiking up the steep bit, and then you might run a flat, and then there'll be a technical kind of descent. So that'll require you to slow down, but it'll use your brain a bit more. And, you know, you'll be maybe navigating as well. So there's it's a lot more of a full body thing, I suppose, and a full experience. But in many ways, it's less brutal than just like road runners who just kind of do the same 5-10K every day or whatever. So but I suppose it is quite hard. But I guess it's like everything. You do a bit, and then you go a bit further, and then you try and go a bit further, and plus you get to eat loads. So, you know, people, it's basic. A lot of the stuff they always say, it's like an eating competition with running.
Yeah.
Like, so you just get to eat tons of like terrible sweets and chocolate bars and like junk food and cakes and carbs. It's great.
You know, that should really be the selling advice for people trying to get them to move. Like, just like get some candy and go.
Yeah.
Get to eat shit.
I love how you started that answer, because years ago I used to do a wee bit of like half marathon and 10Ks and stuff. And Simon started to train for half marathon. He's like, how do you run? Like, how do you do it? Like, what's your technique? Like, and he would go into these details. Like, are you like running on your heel? Or are you running? I was like, I just run. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just run.
Look, that was me in the discovery period of barefoot.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, I don't know what you're like, Andy, but I wear barefoot shoes now all the time. And when the occasion comes to wear like brogues or shoes for suits or whatever, very uncomfortable because my feet are, you know.
When you get those platforms on, those big heels.
Oh, that's right.
Those
stilettos, baby.
Yeah.
Nightmare. My feet just don't go into them anymore. It's very disappointing.
Yeah. Man, it's funny though, because like it's like everything, isn't it? Everything that once any industry like develops a bit, the sort of the marketing and the money comes in. And so, yeah, like you say, if you wanted to go running, you could just get off your ass and just run around the block and you're running. Whereas now you can't do that unless you've got your physio, you've got your trainer, you've bought all the IT bands, you've got the rollers, you need the massage gun, you need 4 types of trainers. It's like, man, just get up and go for a jog. And the thing is, like, if you're not used to doing that kind of thing, it's fucking hard work because you're really unfit and it's really difficult. But like, it's just hard. Like, you've got to, you know, and yeah, it's hard at every stage, but every time you kind of push through that, it turns out it's not as hard as it was when you couldn't do it, you know? And yeah. So then,
and that definitely is a good analogy for business as well, and like running a photography business. Like, with all these outdoor activities, do you think they play any influence in your approach to photography?
I mean, yeah, maybe, but probably not. Like, I mean, it's more so just from my own personality, I reckon. You know, the things that I get out of one thing, or the things that I put into one thing, I also draw on and put into other stuff. You know, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Like, I've always stayed at the end of every wedding. So like, my standard package is unlimited. So literally, every time I'll arrive, early in the morning, and I'm like there when the last person leaves at the end of the night. And so some people find that like unreal. They're like, what the fuck are you thinking? Why would I want to do that? Which I get. But also I'm like, it's not that hard, is it? It's just keep moving around and taking pictures until people leave. And I guess it's the same thing. It's like, you want to run 100 miles in the mountains. You just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other until you get to the end or fall over dead. Ideally the former. But so I don't know. I suppose there's maybe some stuff I take into that, I guess. I don't know.
Because I mean, we're kind of similar, and we've talked about how we like, we've seen some photographers go up to the bride and groom and like, after their first dance, we're like, okay, guys, that's me away. And then they make a big thing and then they leave. Or even they don't even get to the first dance. It's just after speeches and they leave. I don't want to turn this into like how do you charge hourly or whatever. But for those photographers out there that maybe think, yeah, but if I stay later on at night, I'm just going to be photographing really messy things, and people don't want to see that. Like, what do you have to say to those type of people?
I mean, it's totally valid. I mean, but it depends what you kind of, I guess it all comes down to what you think is like important in like what we're doing. Like, what do you value in the importance of photography, and what do you value for the importance of like the work we do for the clients we work for, and I guess so people might not look like attractive at 10 to 12, or they might not look beautiful, but there's certainly beauty in what you can find there. And and again, to like how I approach things, I don't really see myself as being there to make people look good. I'm there to capture a document for these people, like a lot of photographers are, I'm not really there. So I don't mind if it looks messy. If it looks drunk, then it was drunk, and I want to remember that it was drunk, and just certainly for the sort of people I work with a lot of my couples, I sort of have those people that aren't necessarily, they don't want to look all bridal, and, and they're not bothered about themselves looking good more than they are about capturing like the realness of who they are as people at that point in their lives. And so, getting mad drunk with their best buddies who they've known all their lives at midnight, it's like, that's what their wedding is to them. And so that's to kind of leave earlier for me is just like, it's just a cop out. It's just, you're just doing, I feel I'm doing them a disservice, but obviously that's only me, that's everyone, I'm not saying like everyone should be doing it. I hate those goddamn like preaching wedding photographers. It's, it's just, this is just what fits and suits with me. And it's just how I roll.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why we had different people on the podcast, and why we named it Perspective, as on the nose as that is so that people can take away what they want. If it doesn't suit their business or it doesn't suit their personality, then they can leave it. And if they find something that does, then they can maybe incorporate it into their business.
100%.
Have your clients, like you mentioned, the clients that you get aren't typically the ones that want to look beautiful and all that kind of stuff. Like, in the early days of your career, was it more like that? Or have you always just felt that the wedding industry it needs to have a little bit of like it, God, words. I feel like a lot of the wedding industry portrays that kind of beauty standards. That's how beauty should be, that kind of stuff. Have any of your clients, have you always aimed for the kind of clients that you get? Oh my.
Yeah, I know.
I'm butchering this, and I don't know why I'm butchering it, but do you understand the question?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, so like two things really. I think, I mean, the wedding industry, I don't even, it's a funny thing because I've been involved with it as a thing for so long now, but I'm not even sure what it means in a way. I mean, I guess all you could classify the wedding industry as, I suppose, are trends from my perspective, or what brides would see and what they would expect, I guess, is just trends in what wedding photographers are doing, right? And so as the times goes on, every year there's a new kind of trend, and we all know what this year's trends are and what last year's. And I always think wedding photography is kind of funny because I find it crazy that in my head that it would have a trend. Like I'm not personally that motivated by like trends generally, you know, like I like what I like fashion trends. I mean, obviously you wouldn't know from looking at me, but you know, like I'm not really like motivated by what's hot this season in any respect, you know, like I just like what I like. And if it's now or if it's old, I don't care. And it always found it crazy that you could approach the concept of wedding photography with the idea of trends. Cause like, it's literally the definition of something that is timeless. You know, it's literally like you're creating it to last for a long, ideally forever and into the future and beyond our generations. Right. And so I find it crazy. I mean, it happens, but it's crazy that brides even would come with like, I want our wedding to, you know, these are the trends at the minute. So this is what we want. So I guess I've never been into that. And I suppose I guess I feel that my approach to weddings is not particularly unique. There's a lot of people out there doing it, but by its nature, it is kind of almost timeless. And the values, I guess, that I kind of stand for and that many photographers stand for in their wedding photography, like it's just, they're just ubiquitous values. You know, they can't be, they're like base level values. You can't really reduce them down if you like, because they're just simple, honest things about life. And so the trends doesn't bother me too much. I guess like early on, I suppose, it's hard you got to maybe mess up a bit and find your way before you kind of settle on what matters to yourself, you know? And I think I feel I'm fortunate, I guess, now that the work I make and the clients that I book and the weddings I shoot, it very much resonates with me. So there's not very much that I'm doing where I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I doing now? Like kill me now. You know, but to be honest, I mean, one of the things that I'm going off on a tangent now, but you know, like when you think of like, what could that be? Like, oh, the heart-shaped group shot, the guys lifting the bride up. And the thing for me, even that stuff, I'm like, I'm not interested in that. But I've always built my businesses around the love for my couples. And that's kind of what the love for the industry and the work that I have has always been born out of really like wanting, like loving the people that I'm working with. And, you know, like, when you do that, you kind of give them the best that you can. You get the best out of them. You find the elements of their personality that you want to focus in and photograph. But also, it means that if they want to do a heart-shaped group shot and they genuinely want to do a heart-shaped group shot, I'm like, fuck yes. Like, if that's what you want to do, I'm genuinely like all in. I'm like, let's make an awesome heart-shaped group shot. And there's no real kind of, that's this year's trend. You know, I'm just like, you know, if they love smoke bombs and they want to bust out the smoke bombs, I'm like, let's bring it on. Let's bust out the smoke bombs. Whereas, you know, I don't give a shit about smoke bombs, but if they're into it, then bring it on, you know? And so, I think I've just quickly airbrushed along about 20 different topics for you there. So I don't know.
But I'm sitting here smiling, listening to you talk about how much you love your clients. And I just like, you mentioned other photographers, and I can just hear a good few of them just in my head going, but that looks naff, or this, or they're moaning about the clients, or look at those table centerpieces, and they're just moaning all the time. And I'm just like, it's so nice to just hear someone who actually is just into what they're doing.
Mate, people moaning about their couples is the worst.
It's the worst. Please.
I can get a bit ranty, and I don't want to get a bit ranty. But like, obviously, it's the start of the year now, and so you keep seeing these like photographers and industry, kind of wedding industry blogs and things, sharing all these like trends for this year, like what's hot, tick, what's not hot, cross. And I'm just like, fuck you. Like if the bride who's getting married in June, she doesn't need you to tell her that her plans that she's decided to do for her wedding because she wants to do them are so last year, and she should ditch them because this year's trend to look like she got married in this year, so we know it was this year and not maybe last or next year, is that she needs to get like a pink floral arch or whatever wank it is you're trying to sell. Like, like let these people plan this day and go at it like wholeheartedly, 100%, and get on board with them, you know? And dude.
Yes,
you want people to look, but like if a grandchild in years come finds the wedding album or the gallery online, you want to look and go, oh, that's what the fashion was like then, not like, oh, that's what the wedding photography style was then. Like,
exactly.
If you lean into trends too much, you're going to judge it based on the photography rather than
like get everyone
that's what weddings were like.
Wedding photography, weddings, like get everyone together who's the most important to you and be yourselves for the day.
Yeah.
You know, and let a photographer in who appreciates that for what it is. And you don't want any of that wedding wank and all the trends, and we're doing this because it said so in this magazine or this blog suggested we should try this for the wedding. Get rid of all that crap, get them all together, be yourselves for the day, and then like have someone document that who like appreciates that and can see that, so that what you get back is a true reflection of who you are as people. And that's and so like I guess for me, like that's the deep true value of wedding photography, is being able to deliver that for them, you know. Almost like forget the wedding, like who cares, you know.
What was that? There's a viral clip going around of another podcast. I forgive me, I can't remember the name, but I think there are a couple, and they're talking about blurry gallery images, especially I think they relate to like table details, and it made me think like the whole blurry thing that's in right now. I enjoy it. I quite enjoy it when it's people and stuff, but when they were talking about table details, all I could think about is in 20 years time, like you mentioned, someone finding the wedding photos and being like, oh, I really wish I could see what it was like. And I just think, oh, yeah, I suppose right enough, like trends are good, but now you're affecting someone's point of view. I mean, okay, we're getting a little bit deep here because you're essentially affecting someone's view in 20 years time that doesn't, you know, anyway, it's just interesting. I can go really deep on these kind of things.
That's good.
Sorry,
deep is good. It's Wednesday morning. Deep is great. Like I don't know, but yeah, like it's like I don't know. A good photograph's a good photograph, right? So you can have good photographs that are blurry. I'm all like, that's cool.
Yeah,
and blurry photographs, but it's just it's doing things like I guess it's doing things for a trend as opposed to doing things for like the actual real reason you're there trying to do what you're trying to do. And the two can be the same, you know, they can overlap and like they're not mutually exclusive all the time, but you wouldn't necessarily think that if you look through a cross section of say wedding photography in 2024. Do you know what I mean? There would be an everything's, but I'm not like, you know, I'm not like pissing on any of these things because they're all valid. You know, we're all just running businesses, right? It's all great, but I'm just saying, I guess I have navigated those things by honestly, like genuinely not giving a shit about them.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that they aren't important or valid or great. And some people have built their careers on, you know, it's all good. But the way I have sort of navigated this industry or whatever is kind of by just letting all that stuff brush over me and not really giving a shit.
Yeah. I had a little bit of a brain fart just when we were talking about trends, and do you think, I mean, this is maybe not accurate, but do you think that there's so many new people coming to the wedding industry and they're trying these things and they're going to wedding and they're just trying new stuff, and that's why we're seeing a whole bunch of these kind of, I mean, I'm not saying that they're the mistakes or whatever. I'm just saying that people are going to try stuff out at weddings. Do you think that's why we're seeing all these kind of blurry images? Or any trend?
I mean,
like the new blood coming into the industry, trying new stuff at a wedding. Does it work? Does it not? And certain things catch on, is that?
Yeah,
to some extent.
I would say so. I mean, for sure. Like, what's the, like, is it Miles Davis quote? Like, it takes a long time to sound like yourself. And like, you know, when I started, I just basically when I started in 2011 ish, when I kind of got into shooting weddings, there was like 3 or 4 kind of rock star photographers at the top of their game. And I was literally like, had my Nikon D7000 and a kit lens in my bedroom. And I was like, how do I make those pictures? And so all I did for the first couple of years was like, you know, mess around being a kind of, fuck, who were the names back then? Like, Sean Flanagan clone or Jonas Peterson clone or who else was there back then? You know, like all these people, you know, like, because what else can you do when you start doing anything? You rip off the stuff that you see being impressive or successful. And I think the stuff, what attracted me to it then, I guess, which is maybe the similar with new photographers now, is that it kind of looked different to the wedding photographer I'd expect to see. And so maybe the wedding photography that people have been seeing for, you know, back then, the wedding photography you'd seen for up until that, for the last 10 years was a lot more traditional. So when you started getting people doing like photojournalistic approach to weddings and not staging stuff, or when they were staging stuff, it was very much arty and very fashion orientated, you know, little people stood straight, looking bored in a field, that kind of shit, you know. like that appealed because it was different, you know, I guess. And it was a bit more punk, and it was a bit more like, yeah, we're new and we're gonna smash shit up. And maybe that's what it is now. Like, that's why everyone is looking like they do, you know, but whatever, you know, it's all good.
Yeah,
I guess it is. That's why. And then these people, maybe they'll find themselves, and then maybe they'll decide that is for them, or maybe they'll work their way and find what they actually care about. And I think definitely for me, I think once you really knuckle down to doing the work that you genuinely like, you love it for the sake of what it is rather than for anything else, then I think it's certainly you certainly find a lot more fulfillment in your work, and you're a lot happier. And I think it's a lot less stressful, because I think you're not constantly on that like treadmill trying to keep up with everybody else, you know. And there's, you know, it's like anything. If you spend too much time on social media, you're always looking at, it feels like you're in a race against everyone else that you could lose unless you try and like out trend them, you know, and that's really a race to the bottom in anything, you know. You're never going to win that. So,
yeah.
You know.
Do you find that this time of the year, especially because I've been suffering this recently, imposter syndrome kind of strikes at this time of the year when the bookings are a little bit lower, and then obviously, you know, bookings, I think some people are struggling to get bookings this year, so maybe they're feeling that more, and then they're looking at trends and they're thinking, oh, do I need to do more trends? Is that a marketing thing? Is it like, what's your thoughts to those people out there who are maybe going through that kind of imposter syndrome? Like, I mean, holy fuck,
for sure, the imposter syndrome always sneaks in there, doesn't it? Like,
yeah,
here I am, like yapping on about I found my way. Everything else just like, you know, I'm just charging through. Everything's just bouncing off me. It's like no chance. Like, I'd like to think so, but no, for sure, the imposter syndrome sneaks in. You know, like you know, we're down a bit on bookings this year, like than we would be, you know, this time last year. But I've always found that if you keep, like, I've shot, like, this would be like 12 years shooting now, maybe ish. And I've always found like it's always worked out. So I've just, you know, for me anyway, it's always come good enough. And so I've just learned to kind of stay the course and keep the faith. And for me, touch wood, thankfully, it's so far happened. So, I mean, there's definitely an element of that. But also, like, we're running businesses and people have got to do what they've got to do. And so I would, you know, if it gets to this kind of point and you're struggling with numbers, there's definitely things you should be doing and can be doing to fix that. But I definitely would say don't be swayed by the trends, because I just don't think, you know, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's going to help you at all or anybody if you just suddenly like steer 90 degrees and suddenly start changing everything you're about and everything you do, because that's just going to throw more kinds of crap into the mix, which is not going to help book the weddings, when what you need to be doing is knuckling down on, like, really you want to go in the opposite. You want to be streamlining and nailing who you are and what you're about and what your USPs are and why they should be booking you and your marketing and getting all those things lined up. You know, or else, you know, getting out there and getting work from working with other people. And there's a million other ways you can be sort of fixing the cash flow problem, I suppose, but definitely not do that would be my advice.
So our listeners will know, if they've been listening, from the earlier episodes, that, and I've always said a few years ago, it probably was more than a few years ago now, because I've been saying this for years, but like there's always been, and we had this conversation recently, every like 4-5 years, there seems to be a new hurdle for us to overcome. And before the last one that we hit, it was like we used to go to weddings and just kind of like, oh, we've got to get this shot, we've got to get this shot, we've got to get this shot on the drone, we've got to get this shot on the slider. And then I felt very like a machine going to a wedding, and it was very much a tick list of things, and I didn't find any joy. So the first hurdle was finding that joy and being creative at a wedding, and being that is okay, and discovering that the clients that we were getting, they're not going to overly know the general change of your portfolio. I don't think anyone, like, they've all been very excited. Anyway, and then it was branding. It was getting a better website. Who are we? What are we doing? Let's start focusing on doing Scotland stuff instead of going to Italy and going to other places. And now it's like we got so comfortable with the bookings that were coming in, because it was recommendation based from other photographers. So thank you out there, people who recommended us. That's great. Planners, awesome. But now it's just like we've got a lack of bookings because we weren't blogging, we weren't doing guides, we weren't helping our clients, because we always thought, oh, the photographer's got that. That's fine. Like, we'd stop talking to our clients because we just assumed that the photographers were going to be talking, because you guys are normally the first port of call. So we just thought, we'll leave it to them.
Yeah, there's always
wrong mistake.
Always something to improve on, and
always something.
Is this? Yeah, if you are struggling with inquiries, look and see what you might need to improve on now.
Yep.
But you mentioned marketing there, and I think before we hit recording, you said that you weren't good at marketing or you hated it. So you're obviously doing something right, though, because you've kept a business going for 12 years. You're still getting bookings. So what sort of marketing strategies have worked for you in the past and are maybe working right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, isn't it? I don't know. I know so little about this. Like, I wouldn't say I could talk about it that well. I mean, it's crazy when knowing other people who run businesses and have got, things going on, not in photography or whatever. Like, I mean, I don't know, like, if I'm an outlier, but I've, like, for example, in the last 12 years, I've never spent a penny on advertising. And I'm sure most people are the same. And that's insane. Like, my marketing budget is zero. And I'm sure it's the same for most people's. I'm not saying that to blow smoke at my ass. Like, I imagine that is the case. Like, no, we don't spend any money. So it is pretty mental that we can kind of keep these businesses going using like free social media, word of mouth, and a WordPress blog, in essentially, a free SEO, more or less. People sometimes pay for that, but so yeah, I don't know. I'm certainly no expert. I guess I haven't really. I mean, I've not really never done any kind of proactive marketing, other than, I guess, I mean, try to make the best work I possibly can. Try to be like selective in the work that I've shared when you put it out, and try to do the best job I can for my couples. Like, that's really like and I know it kind of sounds a bit like facetious, but like, genuinely, I think, if this like fuckwit here can make a success of a business by doing that, like, anybody can, you know what I mean? 100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like, when I started, I was all about the work. And so the work was the most important thing. And then that kind of grew. So like, just perfecting the work I wanted to make and putting that out there and presenting that in the best possible way. That was the initial thing that I was really into. And then that kind of grew into like loving, like I was saying, like really loving the couples I was working with and making sure that they get the best experience on all levels from you, in the run up and after the wedding, and then not being a dick. And, and you can you meet other photographers and they'll share. And so I guess, yeah, just doing that. Like the weddings that come in, like the inquiries, I mean, like I said, we're down this year. So I'm not saying that I'm all that. Like, we struggle like everybody else. So we're down on bookings this year, and hopefully it'll be all right. But the inquiries that do come in, they've definitely changed, like a bit like you were saying. So for a while you would get referrals from one source, and so you'll be focusing on that more, but then they would tend to dry up over time, and you'd realize that, man, we're not getting anything. So you'd sort of push a bit more effort into other areas, and that kind of changes all the time. I think back in like 2015 or sometime around then, I think I got 90% of one of my weddings. 90% of my weddings in 1 year were referrals from other photographers,
Whoa,
which is just insane. Like that was, that was other people just going, I'm busy, but try this guy, and so that was 90% of my bookings for 1 year. Whereas now I get a lot less of those, but this year they're nearly all coming from, well, they are all coming, I think, from either wedding venues that are recommending me, having shot there, and planners, or from previous couples who are recommending me. So like, it's weird how it changes, like these days we hardly get anything through social media. But then I think, is that a reason then to abandon social media or to go all in on social media? But like I say, I don't know anything about marketing or sales, so I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one.
It might sound like there's no, people might be listening going, damn it, there's no like secret goal there that I've just learned. But I think that was a great answer, because it shows people that just do some basic stuff. You don't need to be an expert in Google Ads. If you want to do that, then I'm sure you'll do great at it, and some people are, but Google Ads, I know nothing about. Even like we haven't spent anything on Facebook or whatever for years either.
Yeah, 100%.
That's fine. So you don't need to be an expert in all these. You can do the basic stuff and just be a good person.
We've just told people we're struggling, Greg. Maybe we do. Maybe we do need to throw some money into.
It's the same. Like you maybe lose one referral source, so you have to lean into another one. So that's
I think one thing I've learned is that it's just constantly changing, and you can't ever sit on your laurels. And I've definitely been guilty of that, and done that a bit. And like you said, and then suddenly like, oh, hang on a minute, don't seem to be getting many bookings for next year, and you sort of reverse engineer and you think, oh, right, okay, and then you start, you go again, like find whatever works. I mean, but again, like it is important to kind of know who you are, I think, as a human being and as a business and as a personality and as your life and all those things around that, because that's definitely going to affect like how much you can put into that. So, I mean, for me, like, I'm not really big on the whole, like being on social media and being, like, hey guys, here I'm, like, all power to those that can do it well. But like that for me is like hard work. And so if I had to do that, it would be exhausting and I would hate myself. And so there was definitely been times when I've started to go down that thinking I needed to do it. But now I'm confident, I guess, in myself to know that, right, you don't have to do that, Gaines. You can there's other ways, all that matters for a wedding photography, right, is that you've got inquiries that are coming in and you're getting enough inquiries. You're getting enough inquiries in that you can convert enough that you can pay your mortgage end of the year. And so people often, I think people, a lot of the times, that look at it in the wrong way, really. It's like, you need to make some money. You can make that from one wedding that you're charging, 80 grand for, or you could make it for 10 weddings at 8 grand, or you might need to do 80 weddings at 1 grand. You got to know where you live in that thing. And then once you know that, you need to be like, right, well, how do I get to them? Well, I need to get some inquiries in. And when they come in, you need to be, how do I convert those inquiries? And I think there's so many different kind of stages within that whole process that you need to kind of know where you need to be able to do all those things. You don't need to worry. People worry too much about one of those things and maybe aren't so concerned as they should be about the rest of those bits, So it's like, you could be getting all the inquiries in the world, but if you can't convert them at a good amount of money, then you need to maybe work on that bit as opposed to like, do you see what I don't know if I've got a bit lost there.
I wanna kind of jump on something you said there. And while I'm here doing that, I'm going to thank everyone who recently joined our Instagram through Joe Greenfield's post about pricing and how there's this this thought process in people's minds where if they're not charging, what did Joe say, £3,000 or £5,000, that you're shit. In Joe's words, I believe. What's your thoughts on that and pricing? Like, do you think people are putting too much worth into their pricing rather than doing the weddings that they potentially enjoy more, but they're not doing those weddings because they are doing the more expensive ones?
Yeah, I mean, people maybe. I don't know. Like, pricing's kind of funny. I think people definitely put too much. I think photographers that I've worked with, because like obviously with that kind of 9dots and the 9dots community that I'm kind of part of, I see a lot of photographers. So I guess just generally in the industry, and I suppose that I would say that I've seen that people put way too much weight on. Like they put way too much worth into how much they say they charge. Is that what you're saying? Like,
yeah,
you're saying like people think they're rubbish unless they're charging a lot of money.
Yes.
I mean, there's definitely too much of that goes around. But again, it's like I think people just mix stuff up. So I guess this is so crazy. Like, so when I go into weddings, I talk now about all this, like loving your clients and just doing the best and staying to the end. When I got into weddings, like the main thing that attracted me was the ability to make loads of money. Like that was literally like the first thing. Like I'd been this dropout musician for years who had an amazing time, but never had any money, literally no cash ever. And before that, I'd been like a climbing bum who like lived out of a car and traveled around and slept on laybys to waste his weekends climbing up rocks. Like I had nothing. And I went to see an old climbing friend of mine, a school friend, and he was seeing this girl who's now a wedding photographer. And he was like, mate, Gainsey, guess what? You'll never guess what? This girl that I'm seeing, she started photographing weddings and she makes £2,000 a day. And I was like, that was more money than I'd seen in my life. And I was thinking literally like, wow, you could do 365 weddings a year and you could retire in a year's time, And obviously turns out that it's not quite work like that. But like that was the thing. I was like, man, like how hard can it be? Even if I can only make half that, I'm going to be a fucking millionaire. And obviously that was kind of bullshit, but that's the thing that got me into it originally. And so, you're definitely motivated I was definitely motivated by money at the start. But then when you start shooting the weddings, like the worth of doing a good job and capturing like great moments and making, it sounds so like pompous, but making like good art and creating good stuff, that became more motivating for me in a way. So the weddings were just like a vehicle and this is in the early days and I was starting out, it was like a vehicle to try and make some cool pictures and make some pictures that, other people would be like, wow, this guy's good. Look at his cool pictures. And so that was the motivation. And so the money bit for me was never really an issue then. But then obviously the more you do that, when you've shot 40 weddings a year and you're not making that much money, and so that for me, the business and the money aspect kind of came a bit later, I guess. I got into that as how to manage and kind of deal with that. And so, I don't know if that even answers the question. In fact, I'm sorry I waffled for so long. I'm not even sure if there was a question at the start. But
it's fine. If this podcast is all just waffling and tangents, I'm all happy.
Right.
Like, just keep talking to me. It's all great. It's all great.
Fine.
I know the listeners are going to be appreciating this too, because they're probably saving this episode up for when they're driving to a wedding, which is 2 hours away. Or editing on a lap, going, no, there's too much greens here in this.
Oh yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah.
A
bit less green, a bit more green.
Yeah. No. But I suppose we've been talking about fuckwits and marketing. So while we're on that subject, let's horror ourselves out, Greg. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on YouTube and hit that subscribe button to support the podcast on youtube.com/@perspective by Cinemate. Hit subscribe. Apple, Spotify, that kind of good stuff. And by the way, we recently posted my beautiful face holding up one of these cups and stuff. And we've been talking about Pick Time Flasks. Well, let's talk about these Perspective Enjoy Your Life podcast mugs. You sons of bitches, you should buy one. And for those of you who did, thank you. It supports the podcast. Anyway, Greg, all that whoring is so difficult.
Tell us, in your words, like how would you describe your photography style?
Man, this is hard, isn't it? I should have this like down to a pat.
Nobody ever does. It's a tough.
So my photography style is just like real and honest pictures for people that are getting married and that want to, remember how they felt and tell the story of who they are, and that's it. The end. I guess.
Was that Was it a long road to discovering that kind of style?
Yeah, I mean, no, it's not like it's hardly kind of crazy unique, is it? It's like, the pitch on my website is probably identical to the pitch on 10,000 other wedding photographers' websites pitches. But yeah, it was. I mean, like I said, when I started out, I was definitely motivated by more nefarious motivations, which were things like impressing other wedding photographers. I mean, I think that's a big problem in the industry. Like I was definitely, when I started out, I was definitely more concerned with like being able to show off with what I'd done than I was actually deliver something of a value on any other level, And so that was definitely a problem. And it definitely took a while, but it's like everything once I've always kind of been all or nothing. So when I got into weddings, I was like fully in, and I was like, it was 24 hours a day. I was obsessed with it. I was, studying it and photography in general and all that kind of stuff, like really threw myself into it. And so, once you do enough of that, you start to see different approaches and you hear from different people and you start to kind of discover who you are, as a person and a photographer, and it kind of comes out of it. I guess my, it's a thoroughly documentary approach, apart from the short time of the day when we go off and make some pretty portraits and do group pictures. Basically 99% of all other wedding photographers, but that's kind of fine. It's all good.
Yeah. And who needs to show off anymore, Andy? Because you are, as you say, one of the world's greatest wedding photographers on your website.
It's got to be true. It says it on my website.
It's got to be true.
Yeah, it's on the internet.
Yeah, that's right. And it's not like when you go to a coffee shop and it says the world's best cup of coffee, like an elf. All right. Andy's got a career of so many years, and he actually loves what he does. So there you go.
It's funny though. All these awards are funny. It's like, because now everything, nothing is localized, right? So like everything is global. So there's a bazillion photography awards that everyone can enter, and they're all essentially global. So every time you win a photography award, you literally are the best in the world. It's like, it's not even me saying that. That's what the awards say, because the awards obviously want that prestige. So like, every year there's like the opportunity to become yet again the greatest, the best in the world, so I'm all for that. Bring it on.
That's amazing. I actually love the fact that you put that on your website. Although now that where did that saying come from? Was it from an award you were given?
I think it was from I can't remember. Like maybe
so many of my awards range finder.
No, but I mean, like over the years, like maybe like could be something to do with Junebug, or maybe some kind of something that I'd won that somewhere in the thing was that. So you just copy and paste it in it, stick it in there. I mean, that's what I mean. But that's the thing with people. Like, it's just marketing bullshit, isn't it? Really. Like you put it's whatever is required to get the people that are looking at your work and like it to go, I'll inquire with this guy. Whether it's absolutely. And so I guess it's and what I was saying before about kind of, I guess I've become quite good at, or my personality is very much, I'm able to kind of ignore those like trends and just stay in my lane, as it were, and do my thing and try and have the confidence in that. At the same time, I'd say to anybody, like, take all that industry bullshit, like all the awards and all that kind of stuff, and use it, but just know that it's also bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, we always have to sing in Nine Dots, like, don't believe the hype. Like, put yourself out there to the people that you need to put yourself out there and tell them how great you are. A little bit like in your little segment just then. So, extolling the virtues of this podcast to YouTube, like, to the people that you want to be your customers, like, sell yourself and take all these daft accolades that people bandy around, but ultimately it's bullshit, isn't it? Like, the greatest in the world.
Well, look, if you're not, I can't remember who I read this in the book, but if you can't sell yourself to your client, then why should they buy you?
Yeah.
It was written in nicer words, but essentially, if you can't see the value in what you're selling and you can't portray that, then what is going to make people, invest in you?
Yeah.
Kind of, I mean, business talk.
Yeah, for sure. But it's weird because it's like, I used to struggle a bit more with the whole like art and business bit. Like a lot of people, like I came in to weddings wanting to be an artist, and I was interested in the art of wedding photography and the craft. And and that was what I was mega into. And maybe coming from like that kind of, like maybe music, punk background a little bit. It was a bit like it had to be DIY, and I could never sell out, and I could never market myself, because fuck that. Like, I'm all about the art, and that's all that matters. And if no one hears my masterpiece record, it doesn't matter, because the art's still there. And that's kind of cool. And I always came from that, but it took a long time of feeling like that before realizing that you can create these two kind of things. Like, I can turn up and be an artist, but at the same time, I've spent time over these last few years, like, learning the craft of business and the sell of that. And you know, becoming accepting and comfortable with the fact that you can whore yourself out as a bit to make money, because I got to pay for my kids' mortgages and stuff. Kids' mortgages. Yeah. My kids don't have mortgages. I've got a mortgage.
My God.
I've got a mortgage, but you know what I mean? Like, ultimately, you got to make that work. And so it took I struggled for a long time with that. And I think a few years ago, kind of managed to break through that and put a lot of time into learning how to sell things and how to market myself a bit and how to price and how to charge more and all that kind of stuff, and getting comfortable with that. And that made a massive difference to me, again, like, I guess, both emotionally and like business wise, success wise, you know? So,
yeah. I mean, you got to learn those skills, because Daddy needs a new pair of running shoes. Am I right?
Exactly.
Those are you can't actually run barefoot. You silly.
Exactly.
Sausages.
You know, I need you can't enough guitars. You know, you got to keep. You know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Speaking of like guitars, let's talk about equipment and give people a bit of a break from the heavy businessy stuff. Like, what equipment is in your kit bag these days? What you shooting on? What's your go-to
When you
lens?
said speaking of guitars, we're not talking. You don't mean guitars, do you? You mean cameras now?
I mean,
Did you say guitars?
Fine.
What's your favorite guitar you've got?
What guitar is in your camera bag right now?
So I usually take two guitars to weddings, just in case one breaks mid-song. If I snap a string, I can quickly get the other guitar and keep going. You know. Camera-wise, I shoot Sony these days. I have a Sony A9 II and then a Sony A7. I should probably get two A9 IIs, but they're expensive in it, so I don't want to waste my money on that. So I've still got so Sony's and just a couple of lenses, usually 35mm and 85mm, and then a wider zoom lens, which does nearly everything, you know, for dance floor and things, and that kind of does everything. A couple of flashes, some triggers and stands and stuff, you know, that's about it. Simple.
In terms of like other things in your bag, like you mentioned smoke grenades, but you mentioned that you're not really into them. So, like, do you carry any like prisms or smoke grenades? If your couple will be like, "Oh, by the way, I saw this image. Can we do it?"
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've got one.
Just two guitars. Just the two guitars.
just the two guitars.
No smoke grenades. No faff like that. You know. I think I did own a prism once. I think my kids took it away to play with it, and I never got it back. I don't know. No, I'm not bothered about those gimmick stuff. But it's not my thing really. I try to keep everything. I've always liked, again, maybe from the climbing and the running and stuff, but like light is always right. So I've always tried to take like the bare minimum and travel the lightest and be as mobile as possible. So yeah, I know some people have got like bags of stands in the boot and stuff and which is awesome. But yeah, no, like just have a little tiny rucksack with my camera stuff in, and then a couple of stands go in the hold luggage, and that's it really.
Hey, I'm Ashley from With Jack. I'm one of the sponsors of the Perspective podcast. With Jack helps to keep photographers in business by supporting them financially and legally if they have problems with a client or they make a mistake in their work. We've all had that fear of our CF card or our hard drive failing and losing important photos. You can find out more at withjack.co.uk. Head over there and find out how we can help you be a confident creative.
When you're documenting? Oh, let's just
new word.
Words today. Why do I have a podcast? I don't fucking know. Anyway, you know, the skill of photography, especially if you're, you know, trying to capture like a live event and things are happening all over the place. You know, it does require you to be quite quick and have your eye on many different things that are happening at the one time. Would you like have any techniques or methods of when you go to a live event that you employ, whether it's like I don't know, something mindset or, Do you have like a camera set in, as boring as and dry as that is, to document things that are happening very quickly, all in the same space?
No, I mean, I guess the one tip is like, people should like, you've got to stop trying to chase the wedding. I think I learned that quite early on. Like I would go to the wedding and you'd be sort of just like that. You'd see something happen over there, so you'd charge over and try and get a picture, but you've inevitably missed it. And then suddenly there's a laugh in this corner, so you run over to there and you've inevitably missed that. And you learn like pretty quick that you can't capture everything at the wedding, right? And so I think again, like finding inner peace with the fact you're not going to be able to get everything at the wedding is the first thing you need to do. And also just to communicate that with your couples, like to tell them that, there's going to be a lot of stuff that happens that's not going to get. But the reason you're paying me is because the stuff I'm going to look out for is the stuff I know you're going to want to see. So you can relax about the stuff that happens that I'm not interested in because I'm not interested in it. And then once you accept that, then it's a case of just really slowing down and deciding what it is you want to take pictures of and honing in on that and going all in on that, as opposed to just trying to do everything scattergun, And so for me, again, that comes down to kind of deciding what that is in any given situation in a wedding, be it in prep or reception or drinks, whatever. It's a case of knowing myself, knowing my couples and what's important to them and who the people are in the room and what is important to them in their day. And then just knowing what I like visually and, being mindful of what's going on. And so, throughout the day, you start to see characters that you might want to photograph more, or people that are more interesting, or you might be drawn to say it might be more of a composition thing. So there might be compositional elements in a room that you're attracted to, or light that you're attracted to. And so for me, it's just kind of seeing these visual like triggers or clues everywhere and honing in on them and just picking one of those and waiting then for the action to happen in that space, So it's a lot more like doing a lot more with a lot less,
Have you ever had a client that's come to you and be like, oh, by the way, I really want my Auntie Margaret with like a picture of her with the tear in her eye and she's wiping it away, like a shot with so much crazy detail that it would be unrealistic to be able to catch that unless you were that random lottery winner and you.
I mean, no, I've never had anything that's crazy like that. But, a lot of the times, I mean, it's funny though, isn't it? You often get like, it's like the bride's like, oh yeah, so my dad's going to be in tears. So you have to get a picture of him. He's going to weep. He's so emotional. And then dad all day is just like stony faced. Like, and you're thinking, shit, where are these tears that I was promised? But, no, thankfully, like never had any real issues with that kind of thing. But again, it's more the act of being observant, I think. And I think that comes a lot through practice, and it comes through shooting lots of weddings. Like I say, when you first start, I always think the good analogy is like learning to drive. I can remember when I learned to drive and you get in the car and there's just a million things to think about. You've got handbrakes and mirrors and you've got, indicators, and it's like there's so much going on, and you've got gears and you haven't even left the drive yet, and before you know it, you've driven into a wall. Whereas it's the same thing when you start shooting weddings, right? It's like there's just so much stuff going on, and it's so fast paced. But after all, the more you do it, it's a lot of the fast stuff becomes more autopilot, and it feels. I get into the car now. I don't even have to. I barely have to open my eyes, and I've driven to London. Do you know what I mean? I barely have to even turn my mind on, and I've driven 300 miles. That's not quite true, but I am safe. I'm a safe, sensible road user for those concerned.
Yeah. Okay.
But you know what I mean? Like, so once you accept it, everything is a bit slower and easier. You can do the expected wedding stuff almost with your eyes closed, if you like. And that frees your brain up a bit more to look for those things that are more important to the couples, like capturing dad, and again, that comes down to the kind of knowing the couples, and that comes down to the way you communicate with them before the wedding, so it's having those conversations about what is going to be the most important thing getting these people together. Like what forget the wedding, like what's going to be, are you close to your mum and dad? What's important to you about them? Who are the most important people? And you can kind of get a sense of that. So you can already be on the lookout for that and doing that prep work before you even start the wedding, so that when you start shooting, you're.
that kind of automatic way of, now you've become so accustomed to shooting, so it's now you don't really need to think about it. I feel like that is why it's really hard to ask the questions like, oh, how do you go into a room and do this? Because I'm sure people new to the industry want to know how you do go into a room filled with people and create images with that resonate with their clients on an emotional level. But it's so hard because if you've been in the industry for a long time, you're just used to doing it.
Yeah.
And so I find like it's really hard if I ask a question, you're like, I don't really know. I just do it. Let's take the dad, for example, just to try and help those who maybe do struggle with this. You've been tasked with getting that kind of great shot of the dad. I mean, you've got the whole day to do it, but you're thinking, well, I need at least 3 images, or I don't know what people think, because we do video, the mindset's a little bit different, but
3 minutes of footage.
No, 3 minutes,
bawling his eyes out for 3 minutes.
It's not even 3 different shots with video. It's 1 3-minute long clip of the dad eating a canapé.
To camera.
So what's your what is your, like, when you hear that, you go to a wedding and you think, right, dad, then what happens in your mind?
Well, so I mean, I guess it would just be a case of knowing that is important to the couples that I'm working with. It just goes in there, and so it's just something that you're looking out for the whole time. And so, maybe it would mean that I might in the morning maybe chat a bit more with dad and find out a bit more about him, so maybe he's a bit more comfortable. Often, like, dads and mums can be a bit more like, "Ooh, what's this weird man in here taking pictures of us?" You often have that barrier. So I'd maybe put a bit more focus into kind of becoming best friends with dad at the start of the day. And that's not to be like cynical, like to trick him into taking his picture, but that's genuinely because once you get to know people and like them, you want to take good pictures of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember speaking
that.
like to Ben Chrisman, an amazing wedding photographer from the States, from Chrisman Studios years ago. And he was saying that. And that's always stuck with me. It's like you can't take good pictures of people unless you really love something about them. And if you can't find something that you love about them, like, you dig harder to find the thing you love about them, whatever that is. So once you've dug in there, once you've found, when you find that thing you love about them, that's what you're photographing, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And, it would be get in and become friends with dad and learn how to, like, what makes this guy awesome. And then, just keep my eye out for him during the day and just bear that in mind. And, you take, like most people, I take lots of pictures on a wedding day. So to get a handful of pictures of someone looking who they're being themselves, I don't mean to sound like arrogant, but that's not a huge task. It's like you were saying, like, it's so second nature now that you've been to so many weddings that it's just, I don't know. I guess a lot of it is kind of, you're doing some of it just without thinking, really. It's just, you're just doing it.
Yeah. And are you doing that kind of on the day of the wedding, or do you have like a super lengthy questionnaire that you send your couples to be like, yo, tell me something special about the dad. Yo, tell me something special about your mum. Like,
so one of those questionnaires.
What's your mum's favorite color?
It's so long, you have to save and come back to it another day. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 4 hours to complete my pre-wedding exam before you go into before I come to shoot it. No.
That's right.
No, so we do have a couple of questionnaires that we send out. I mean, one is a bit more, like airy fairy, like what, who are you as people? What do you like? What floats your boat? What, all that kind of stuff. And then one is a bit more like, give me some stats and facts on the wedding, like logistics, who's who, what,
Yeah.
So there's a bit of that. I generally wouldn't tend to speak to like dads and mums and things like that before the wedding, though. Just on the day, But again, that just comes down to like just not being a dick and going in. That's what you're saying about people that I think one of you mentioned it earlier on about like people moaning about the wedding clients or whinging about stuff, right? Like, if that's your attitude from the get-go, you're on a hide into nothing. It's like a race to the bottom. Once you start moaning about the wedding, you're doing the exact opposite of what I was saying before, which is that you have to go in and like love these people. If you want to make good pictures of them, you've got to like genuinely be enthused and care about all the people in front of your camera. So that includes bridezilla, you know, that includes the worst stressy bride you can imagine. It could include a nightmare mother of the bride. It could include Uncle Bob, the most irritating man you've ever met with a massive camera that's content to just talk to you all day. It could include obnoxious bridesmaids, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
If you don't love those people, like from the bottom of your heart, you aren't going to make good pictures of them. And if you're actively like, you know, I don't know if you're in wedding groups, you know, you get some people where they're at weddings and they're moaning on like Facebook in wedding groups about the people at the wedding.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, what? You are not going to rescue this. Like, you know, you've got to like maintain that. You've got to find good things about these people. And if I think even just like voicing it out loud, it's like, it opens the door for the little demons to come in. And before you know it, like you're not doing it well, you know? So again, sorry, I don't know what the question was, but don't do that, kids.
That's all right. Yeah. No, I do you think it's like an ego thing? Is that where it comes from? Like I don't know. Like there's certain shots you don't want to get. Oh, I don't do that. That's not me. That's not my thing.
Yeah.
Is that an ego-driven?
Yeah, I suppose it could be. I mean, I'm certainly no saint, you know, everyone's guilty of everyone's like, oh my God. But I would say the key to that is 100% to tell the miserable Andy Gaines to like fuck off and dig in and like, what about these people can I like, you know, like what is it? Like what's my in? Like what's the in to get in with these people so that I can make amazing pictures of them being themselves and genuinely who they are so that I can give those to the people that have hired me to be it. So I don't know. Like, I don't know whether it's ego or whether I think it's just a mindset or it's just a kind of, I don't know if it's a gratitude thing. I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, sure, I moan as much as the next person, but like this job is a dream, isn't it? Really? Like, I don't know. Like,
yes,
it's not, and I'm not saying it's easy and it has its challenges, but dearie me, like most people are going to they've got like 20 contact days a year where they work, you know, 25, 30 contact days a year. And for the rest of the time, they can just do whatever the fuck they want, so long as they get their editing done and the bit of marketing. It's like, it is a dream gig. And anyone that complains about it, I don't know. That's how, I mean, I appreciate some people, everyone's, you know, I'm very privileged to be able to say that, but that's how I feel. And so I think I just find it I find it easy to not moan too much about that state of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I get that.
A few caveats in there
Something
for sure. Like I am a middle-class white dude with a lot of easy, you know, like it's very easy for me to say that, but for me, that's how it is. And so I don't know. Yeah. I feel a lot to moan about.
I mean, I know you're saying this, Andy, but every time I've seen you, you've got a cap on. So I figure Andy's completely bald under his hat. So, you know, swings and roundabouts, folks.
That's it.
Something we've not actually established yet.
I was wrong. Look at that gorgeous hair.
Are you always shooting solo? Like, are you at a wedding always just solo shooting?
Not always. Maybe like most of the time, yeah. Sometimes not. Probably like 3/4 of the time by myself, you know.
Yeah.
Do you have a different approach when you are with a second? And
no, it's normally exactly the same. I mean, it's really, really rare that I would work with a second who I don't like know as a friend, you know, as a mate. So I've got a handful of people that I work with a fair bit. So no, like, you know, if we work together, I'll work how I work and they can do what they do and it's all good, you know. Generally, I'm pretty happy to shoot by myself though, unless like physically I can't, you know, do it. Or often like the couple want a second, you know, they're like, you know, often they think they need it more than maybe I sometimes do, but it's, you know, it's fine.
Yeah, I think when you do feel like you need a second, is it just like the number of people at this event would be literally just physically difficult for me to capture them all on an image? Like, is that your goal to because I remember doing seconding for, okay, it was a video, but I was just to get shots of people. And they were just sitting down doing nothing, but I had to get them. Boom, 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 just to have them. Is that going through your mind?
I mean,
or
yeah.
Is it?
No, generally not. No, I mean, I think video is different though, for sure. Like putting together, because my wife does a bit of video stuff occasionally, and like for sure, like it's a different. You can't attempt it. Like so we started doing video a bit a few years ago, and I was like, I've got this, Abigail. Like, I'll tell you what to do. Just do what I say, what I do, and you'll be fine. Turns out you can't really film a wedding the same way I approach photographing a wedding. So, yeah, who knew? But so I think video is definitely different. But no, for me, like, I would never allow my clients to expect that I would be photographing everybody at the wedding unless that was something they said. Like, I would almost be saying, like, my job is not necessarily to photograph everyone there unless that is really important to them. In which case, maybe I would get a second. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
For me, if I wanted a second, it's usually because either the wedding is crazy hectic timeline wise, or is a big amount of guests. But also more knowing, having met and spoken to my couples, like knowing what their expectations and their wants are, and so it's more like I know that these guys are going to require a bit more than I can maybe give by myself. So I'll get a second in for that. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Rather than necessarily, anything else, which again is, And so a lot of the time with the seconds, often like I'll sometimes pay them for my own pocket just because the couple doesn't necessarily see the value of it. And I could try and sell them the value of that, and sometimes I will, but often not, It's more because I know that for them to get what they want, I'm going to need the second, as opposed to me.
Yeah, I get that. I want to know more about your mentoring and why you kind of why you went down that line. What motivates you to What motivates you to mentor?
I just love it. I've always liked it. I did I've always been vaguely teaching. Before I dropped out of uni and to travel around the world playing music, and I'd done like a secondary teaching qualification, which I almost finished, but then quit because I decided I didn't want to be a teacher in a school. But so I did that. I've always teaching's great. I think there's definitely something feels good about helping other people. I really enjoy it. Always have done. And so I don't know. Like we started. So when it initially started, the first kind of teaching I ever did was way back when we started 9 Dots. So 9 Dots is a thing that I set up with 3 of the photographers back in 2014, maybe. And the initial thing was that I think we wanted to kind of do some kind of workshop together, the 4 of us, but I don't think we had the balls or the knowledge to do it by ourselves. So it was like, let's do it together, and we can I'll talk about this. So that's kind of where it started from. And then everything, I guess, has kind of grown from there. And so, so done workshops and obviously spoken at lots of conferences that I've been asked to speak at, and then mentoring as well. So I've done quite a lot over the years of one-to-one mentoring with other photographers who have, either for, one-off sessions over online or for year-long things where they've come along to weddings with me, and also all kind of things in between, really. So it's great.
Yeah.
Just love it.
Where did the name 9 Dots come from?
So it comes from, there's a puzzle called the 9 Dots puzzle. There's 3 little dots in a cube, not in a cube, in a square. And the challenge of the puzzle is to join them all by straight lines. I think by 4 straight lines, you have to join all the dots. But the only way to join all the dots is to think outside the box. So you have to take your lines outside the box.
Oh, right, yeah.
So apparently it's where the phrase thinking outside the box was coined. So it came from that.
All right.
And we kind of thought it was cool.
That's very cool.
And now we're stuck with it.
Yeah.
It is cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So as a co-founder of a conference and having spoke at quite a few, you've obviously seen behind the scenes at them. You've spoke to a lot of attendees. What would you say from that experience makes a good workshop or a good conference?
Man, it's tricky. I think that's different for lots of people, right? I think certainly the way we did it initially, or our goal with 9 Dots has always been as much about the holistic, non-learning side as it has been about the learning. So, always making sure that there's plenty of non-education stuff. So it's as much about forming a good community and building a great camaraderie amongst all the people there and forming a great community and network as it is about learning how Dave from Switzerland uses his off-camera flash, or whatever. Dave from Switzerland, who's he?
Dave.
Dave from Switzerland, the brand Dave from Switzerland, big wedding photographer.
We know Dave.
Swiss Dave.
I really hope there is a Swiss Dave listening. He's been like, they're talking
Swiss
about
Dave weddings.photo. No. So yeah, like that was always a big thing. So having that community and then off the back of that to be able to have that support after the event. So you don't just go away and you watch a bunch of people talk at you for 3 days and then you bugger off back to your house and fall in the same bad habit. You've got like almost a circle of accountability of other people that were there and stuff. So that's definitely a big thing for sure. And again, like we always try to really like max out the kind of different learning styles. So, you've not only got just like keynotes where you're being talked at, but you've got like hands-on practical stuff where you can ask questions so I think definitely kind of mixing it up in that respect is good. I think, and I think people get a lot out of that for sure.
I just want to apologize for anyone who is maybe driving. You might have heard an alarm. That was on our end. It was a test for the building. We forgot it was going off. So yeah, it wasn't like someone angry at you beeping an alarm.
Dude, I was headed to my bunker. I thought that was it. I was grabbing my tins of baked beans. I was about to get down there and bolt the doors.
Oh, wow. I'm glad I warned you, Andy. I'm glad. Can you share any like any particular like rewarding experiences that you've had teaching others?
I mean, wow, yeah, like they're all rewarding, guys. But
oh my god,
no. I mean, I've had lovely emails from like lovely feedback, and you get emails from people who have said super nice things that feels a bit. I don't know. I'm not going to say that. It's just too smoke blow the ass. But people have said like you genuinely made big differences in my life and help. Like stuff like that. It's really nice to hear. So just getting nice feedback is amazing. And also, just seeing people's work change. Like when you do mentoring with, like when you do like one-to-one mentoring over a long time, like over a year or 6 months with somebody, you start. At the start, their work is in a certain position and their business is in a certain place. And often neither of those are where they want them. That's why they've come to learn and change those. And then in 6 months' time, you literally can look and be like, wow, look at what you're making now. Like you're making incredible work and, the business issues you had, whether they were, you're charging more or you've got more bookings or whatever it is. And that to be able to, to see that is, it's amazingly, it's hugely rewarding. So yeah.
Yeah. How do you, in particular, judge the advancement of a wedding image? Like, if you're saying, well, I can see you create this type of image and, you've helped people get to this type of great image, but what are the elements that make up a good image? Yeah,
I hear you. I mean, it's two things, right? I mean, it's so weird. Like it's like it's a weird topic because if you like a picture, right? If you like it, then it's fine. If you give it to some judge in a competition and he sort of points out that the composition's wrong and you've included this and you've chopped this person's hand off and you've not accounted for the lighting and like fuck you. Like if you like it, it's good. If it resonates with you, it's good. But the majority of the time people come, to learn to make better pictures is because they aren't happy with their work, and so I guess it's a case of looking at. I mean, you go back to the basics of photography. It's about things like impactful composition and always hate to, but like rules of composition. Just basic stuff and kind of almost helping people create that kind of foundation of good photography. Based on how to use light and how to understand moments and basically all these things that all add up in an image to make the image more impactful and more moving. And it's a case of sort of building that foundation so photographers can go away and work on that. And so that their images become more like impactful and they become more powerful. You know, that's the ultimate goal, I think. Well, certainly for me anyway, that's the goal of any situation. Like, how can I make this image the most impactful it needs to be, or whatever? And that for me is, yeah. And so just trying to teach those things and share those little things that slowly add up, you know. And then obviously when you take those foundations, and then you kind of, it's like you've got to learn that stuff, I think, in order to be able to put it inside so you can forget about it. So then you can walk into the wedding, and like you were saying, when you've got these things kicking off, you can follow your nose, and you're not thinking about shutter speeds and composition rules or all that shit. You're just focusing on like, where's the emotion and where's the story? And then you could just nail on that, and you're doing all that other stuff without even thinking. You know, you're putting yourself in the right place because you've kind of got that stuff down.
After our conversation with Ian Weldon, I've been finding it hard to draw a specific line through work to say this is good, this is bad. So yeah.
It's all subjective.
It's all 100%, subjective.
Man, yes, but absolutely. But at the same time, like, anybody can look at two things. But this is why this you see, I see, this is like this weird point where like the business and the art of business and the business of art kind of start to come together, because it's like, what are we trying to do and why are we trying to do it? You know, like Ian's awesome. He's a great guy, and like I know him quite well, and you know. For sure, it's like, well, if you know, I don't care if I like this picture, it's good enough, right? That's cool, and I'm down with that. Yep. But also, it's like, well, I'm actually, you know, I always feel there's like a duty of care that goes kind of towards the client, which is a bit more like, well, I like this, but what do I like it? What don't I like about it? And once you start to ask those questions about anything you're looking at, you can start to develop rules, you can call them, because, you know, what don't I like about this picture? Well, I don't like the fact that this or this or this is in there. So then that's something that goes into your subconscious, and it starts to, so I guess it's more a case of just, I guess no rule is a right or wrong rule, but everyone's got their own tastes and their own rules. And I think you just have to ask those questions of yourself and of your work to start to, and if you look at some other work and you like that work, ask yourself what you like about that. And although the rules are, there are no rules. The rules are the things that you're choosing to, you know what I mean? Like they're almost intangible. You can't.
So is that it? Like, from a mentoring point of view, like you've seen this person's work, and you know what they're trying to do, and now that they're able to do it through mentoring, they're achieving an image that is the standard for what their goals were. Is that how you're?
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean?
I hear you. Yeah, I guess so, for sure. Like, I mean, but that's kind of super deep, right? Like, but no, I mean, it's totally valid, and like that's exactly it, right? But that's deep. I mean, there's another level which is just like they want to learn how to make good pictures, like X, Y, or Z, you know, and because they want to make more money, or they think that's what's going to make them more money, you know, which is often not the case. Which is kind of what we were talking about before, you know. It's you know, good pictures are good pictures, but you can go an awful long way with mediocre pictures and a bit of skills in a few other areas if you so wish. You know, like
yes.
Do you find that people coming to you for mentoring or coming to the conference are mainly looking for the how to make better photographs, or are they coming for how do I grow my business and how do I improve my marketing and stuff? Like, what are they usually coming for?
I mean, I guess it's probably a combination of both those things. I think one thing with a lot of photographers is that I guess it's like it comes often from like a satisfaction where they're not entirely sure and they're a bit directionless in a way. And I think that's something else that mentoring can be really helpful with, is to kind of pull out, like, what are you about and where do you want to go? What does that look like? And now let's work out how we're going to get you there, you know, which I think is objectively quite easy, but subjectively is quite hard when you are that person and you can't kind of see the wood for the trees. So I think that's a really like important thing. But I think it's a combination of both those things. It's like the craft and the business. Often it's like, I want to charge more money. Like, that's the simple thing, right? Like, I want, how do and it's like you said right at the start of this podcast, we're coming full circle, guys. This is brilliant. Take it. But it's like you said at the beginning, it's like, you know, how do you want to, what's my worth? You know, I can only charge this much and I want to be better and therefore charging this much. And so it's kind of working out, what does that mean? Like your worth, let's find what that is. And let's remove let's get rid of that number value, but then let's also work out how you can charge more money and be successful. And like I was saying, so for some people, that might be like a glaring issue with the work they make. So that might be something to work on. But for other people, their work might be good, but really badly curated. And that's another thing. Like, it's like what people show, like, is most people make great pictures, but then just choose to maybe display the less great ones. And maybe don't just, like how you curate and show stuff is as important as the stuff you take in the first place. And then, but it also might just be like some, not great business ideas that's meaning that they could be making a lot more money or charging a lot more or shooting different weddings and, just being able to. So it's like, a combination of all those things, I guess.
Yeah. And I've had something recently where a couple of people have come to us and they've been like, maybe they've wanted the idea of mentoring. And I've had this kind of on and off conversation with a couple of people, but the idea of like when they say, oh, I want to get this equipment, and it's a list of like a gimbal and this camera and this, I feel like I already know that I'm not going to be able to fulfill the vision of what they want to create, because I'm very much a handheld, shooting with less, like all those kind of things, whereas they're trying to get more stuff. And so, but I don't know if it's any
maybe
good.
Maybe they just want that because they don't know what they can create without it. So they need the guidance and the direction to say,
maybe,
well, is that what you want? Do you want more equipment to create the gimbally kind of shot, or do you want guidance to do something a bit different?
Yeah, I guess.
Because I mean,
but like totally, like I'm kind of agreeing with you both. And also like, there's the question is like, well, do you want to say, look, this is how I work. So if you want to make work like me, follow my formula, right? I mean, anyone can do that. Like you can do that.
Yeah.
Or would the role be to say, okay, so you're into gimbals. Let's make, you can still do great work with a gimbal and a crane or whatever they might be into, all that kind of stuff, and I guess it is, but it's like more about like finding out what these people want to be and then making them into the best version of themselves,
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard a lot of people are going to the Lawson's wedding film school thing. I think that's great. Let me know how it is, folks. If you're having a good time out there, if you're on, is
that a workshop that Pete and Laura are doing, or is it like a conferencey thing?
Yeah,
I think it's just a workshop.
I think it's an in-person workshop.
Nice.
From what
and is that happening soon?
I actually don't know when it's
It'll
happening.
probably have happened by the time this episode comes out.
It will have happened by the time this episode.
I'm sure everyone had an awesome time.
Yeah.
Yes, but let me know. I want to hear your experience. Pete is he's an amazing filmmaker. In fact, there was one time we shot the same couple. One of them was like a small micro wedding, elopement garden-y thing, which we shot, and then Pete did their actual wedding, and it was so interesting when we were at the bar comparing the two films because we're totally different. And I was like, "Oh man, your film looks so fucking good. I'm having imposter syndrome. Oh damn you, Pete!
It's so funny though, isn't it? Like, man, I love those guys. They're great. Like, because they used to be photographers, right? So I met them. I got to know them. Yeah. They're photographers in like a Facebook group then, and then they went to films and they've done loads of stuff with 9 Dots. Like tutorials for our community and things. Absolutely great. But it's so funny though, like you said, like looking at their work and being like, man, but the grass is always greener. Like it's, and that's learning that is so true. Like literally, like, exactly that. You'd be like, man, why doesn't my work look like that? And then people are seeing your work and they're thinking, man, why does it matter? The grass is that whole imposter syndrome thing. You've just got to like, let it go. Like you're always going to look at the people's work and be like, man.
Yeah.
But you talked about like showing your work and creating it. So we talk about some of the images that you've showed on your website, because Simon's picked a few images that will pull up in TV, and We can
On the
talk about
TV
it.
behind you.
It's time for show and tell.
Amazing. Dun, dun, dun.
I've got to have a little theme song
Drum roll.
going.
Oh.
Right, cool. So, I've not kept it to 3. I try my
There's a
best.
lot.
I tried my best to keep it to 3, Andy, but there's just so many different images and so many stories that I want to know the behind the scenes. Anyway, first of all, can you see
I can see the TV.
all right?
Yeah. That is so
Okay,
high tech,
cool.
guys.
So-
I'm loving it.
Great. And this is why you should absolutely go to our YouTube channel, because these show and tell sections are really quite fun
It's
to
like
do.
we're in primary school and we've wheeled out the TV to
Yeah.
show
The
you something.
massive TV. Or you guys,
Oh
do you?
my
I was
God.
talking to my wife about this. Do you remember the OHPs? Remember overhead projectors, where you would have like the
yeah.
little
Oh my
acetates that you'd write on, and then you'd wheel them out with a big
If
mirror
they
on
wanted to be in
top.
charge of it.
Yes, that's what I want. I'm a bit sad you've not got one of those, but it's fine.
I'm sorry. I know we're
We'll
too
upgrade
techy.
it.
Go with the
eventually.
HD TV. It's all right.
So the reason I picked this image was because we do a lot of elopement stuff, and we know a lot of elopement people, a lot of elopement photographers, and they shoot, and we like to shoot quite epic stuff, right? Scenery, hills, mountains in the background. But when I think of like people who shoot elopements in cities or like anything like that, the epicness is sometimes missing from a gallery. Not to say that the galleries aren't good, because some of you photographers out there are incredible at what you do. But I liked this scene because it had that epic feel in a city, and I just wanted to know what your thought was in capturing this image, especially like there is a spotlight at the bottom. I don't know if you can see, there's a spotlight with the couple, and that's just highlighting them, but the city's in the background. So I was thinking, well, does Andy take lights to a wedding, or are you borrowing a video person's lights? Like, what's the story? Tell me all about this.
So having spent the whole podcast chatting to you guys about the importance of like real things, here's a completely staged portrait.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Don't worry.
Oh,
there
it's
is some
fine. I don't
video
care. I
ones
don't
coming
care. I do it all. It's all good.
there-
I mean, right. So all like, for 99% of the wedding day, like it's all documentary anyway, but obviously we make pictures and make portraits. But a big thing is always to try and do the portraits as quick as possible. So everything is very much, there's like the bare minimum amount of stuff, because the less time we're away from the wedding, the better, right? It's not like the whole disappeared for an hour job.
Yeah.
So usually try and set myself like 5-10 minutes for all the portraits. So this is just one of them. I mean, you mentioned about the whole like big epic thing. I always try and do something big and epic is always good to get at a wedding. And I don't think I hear what you mean about the cities. It's sometimes hard to maybe get that viewpoint or that vantage. But most of the time, if you just, put a wide angle lens and walk further enough back, you'll achieve the epic thing, right? But obviously it's the venue kind of demands it, because it's like a rooftop wedding venue. So it's in New York, and I've worked there a few times, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. So it's just almost like rude not to. And so when it got to that time, it was like the dusky, just getting dark time, just grabbed a couple, and that's lit with just like a little tiny LED panel on a little tiny stand, like a little flat, panel thing, just one of them, which is somewhere down to I'm actually pointing at the screen. So
Right here.
somewhere around there. Yeah.
Guide my hand.
Yeah, just up a bit, like pin the tail on the donkey. No. So it's super simple in that regard. Just one panel on a thing that's lit. With this actual picture though, in order to get I did call on like some skills, because to get the vantage for this, you have to climb up onto like the highest point of the roof, which has got like a ladder that like one of those fire escape ladders with the circular like cage around it that you can climb up inside.
Yeah.
But on this one, you're not supposed to go up there. So it's actually bolted shut. There's like a cover over it. So you have to kind of climb around and over it, and then up the outside, and then back onto the roof. So I was like, I pulled on a few old like, climbing moves to do that. But it's hard, isn't it? Because an image like this, like photography wise, it's like 101. It's like, stick couple down there, make them have a cuddle, pop a light on them.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's like you've got this epic backdrop. So, I think any kind of scout, any kind of pre-planning or whatever that ever happens for me is always as basic as like find good view, ask yourself where you'd insert the couple there, light them up if you need to. That's it. It's just simple as that, really. So, I mean, photography wise, it's mega. Yeah. It's kind of lame, isn't it? But obviously for them, it's amazing because you get this. You get what it felt like to be on top of that roof in the evening when they had their wedding up there. So it's pretty special.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, did the city mean a lot?
Yeah, well, they're from New York, so it's like they're New Yorkers, and like it's a New York goddamn skyline. So it's pretty.
If they don't have this printed and put somewhere in their house, I would be amazed.
Here's hoping.
I genuinely would be amazed. But yeah, so so this was all thought out before you took the shot.
I mean, yeah and no. So I didn't know.
Okay.
We went obviously. So I guess we talk about this a lot with like teaching and stuff, like the whole like climbing the ladder idea, right? So you've got 5 minutes and you head out to the little spot on the roof to take some pictures, and you set things up and you make a nice picture, and that's boom. So you've ticked that box. And then it's like, right, well, how do I make that nice picture a bit better? Okay, well, maybe I can change position. Maybe I can change the light, do that, take another picture. Cool. How do I make that a bit better? Right. And you start just kind of climbing the ladder of awesome to ultimately arrive at something good. And so it wasn't really planned out like this, but it was more that like, okay, I've achieved what I can achieve with them here where they are. What if we leave them where they are and I try and go up there? Let's see what it looks like. And obviously you had to climb up there, which is a bit of a thing, but then turns out it was epic, and so it could easily be that I got up there and the view wasn't quite as good or whatever, so
there is definitely a beautiful metaphor, Andy, about how you were just saying climb the ladder in a metaphorical sense, talking about just making an image better each time, and then you actually
then I literally climbed the ladder,
climbing up a ladder that was shut off.
Exactly.
Look, if you're not climbing up the ladder that's there, you're shutting the ladder, and you're just not climbing. You're seeing the gate, and you're thinking, no, I can't make this any better. No, be like Andy, climb that ladder or the outside.
Climb the goddamn ladder,
the rooftop,
and you'll get there. Just climb that fucking ladder. Right, next.
And then get a massive bollocking off the wedding, coordinator that comes around and catches you up there.
That's what I was thinking when you said you climbed up a shut ladder. I was like, oh, the venue would not be happy.
Yeah.
But you do stuff and then you apologize later. That's the method that we
always seek forgiveness, not permission. Always seek forgiveness, not permission.
Exactly. Yeah. Prime example: drone shots. Just do them in the morning, and if you get into trouble, you've already got some shots. There you go. Nice, easy.
Was that your drone up there?
No.
Yeah, sorry.
Whereas if you try and ask permission, you're wasting like half an hour. Here's the document.
Oh yeah, like you need like the CAA thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god. Just. Yeah. Anyway, Andy. Next image. Now I chose this one because I like the humor of it. And obviously, I'm still remembering back to that kind of Ian Weldon, like, what makes a good image. And after talking to Russell Kent Nichols about the types of wedding images wedding videos that he likes to do, and thinking about tone and stuff, and how some people like to present the wedding as all fun and high end and a party, and some other people like to take a little bit more of an artsy route and explore the other emotions. This was one of the other emotions which I really loved. Now, obviously, to me, there's humor in this, but if a photographer, or if your average wedding photographer went and saw this granny absolutely bored out of her tits, they probably wouldn't shoot her. Yet there is this discussion that you're almost having in my mind that goes a little bit deeper than just she's bored, but almost in a morbid kind of, she's past her life and you know, the prime of her life has gone past her. She's looking at this couple going, oh, that used to be me. Like all these kind of stories that I play in my head because I'm a morbid individual and death is always chasing me type thing. But I love the fact that you've just done this.
Dude, I love that. I love your little monologue. That was awesome.
I'm trying to give you as much of my mindset to see if it actually is what your mindset was. Quite often it's not because I like to ramble in my brain. Tell me your thought process here. Tell me about the wedding. Tell me about this grandmother.
I mean,
if in fact,
yeah. So I mean, it's kind of that. I mean, I wouldn't have said that when I saw it. My monologue was kind of like what you said, but dude, this is the best thing, right? So, literally in my head all day, I'm like having those kind of weird conversations with myself, 100%. And it is literally, you know, you're looking at all these scenes and you're just kind of playing out stories in your head, or like. And some of those, like we said before, are kind of going to be driven by your couple's needs. The fact that the bride really wants a great picture of dad, right? So that's one of those narratives that's playing. But also, you just got your own weird narratives playing, and you start thinking all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I would say, like, definitely, like, people should follow. You should go with that, because that's the lighthouse that's going to guide you to your pictures. You know, that if you listen to that little weird voice, you know, and I'd be looking at the viewfinder and I'd be thinking like, ooh, that guy over there, wouldn't it be awesome if he came over and did some, you know, whatever it is, like in any scene you're watching, it's like, just start playing kind of like daydreams with what you're seeing and following, because that's how that will lend you to start making these pictures that resonate with you, if you like. I mean, but for this, I mean, it was maybe not that so deep. It was just a case of, they've just had their first kiss and you're looking beyond the obvious and you're just seeing that she's bored with it. Yeah. So a lot of the time you see it and you shoot it, and maybe you then, when you, like I said before about the curation and the culling of the work, like that's as big a part. I think on the day, things happen so fast. A lot of it is just like, something interests me, I'm going to take the picture. Something perks my interest, I'm going to take the picture. Something's funny, I'm going to take it. Something sad, whatever. You're just capturing emotions, good or bad, right? And so, yeah, it's almost afterwards then that you start to the deeper kind of work begins, when you're curating and culling, because you're thinking, well, how was it like to be there? Is this appropriate? Is it good? Will they get it? Is it funny? Is it not funny? Is what I saw then worth seeing now? Is it still there, or did I miss? You know, and so I mean, obviously for this, I mean, it can be as simple as it's just on some level, it's just a funny picture of a woman looking bored at a moment that she shouldn't be looking bored at, right? You know, but also, like, it's got all those other things too, you know. And I love again, so it's one of those things where it's like, people talk about weddings and it being a lot of like either or, like, you know, you can't, how do you balance that, like shooting the wedding they want, but also doing the stuff for yourself? And it's like, well, like, this is the first kiss. So they have a first kiss and I take a picture of that and then just simply open my eyes and you see this happening. So you refocus and take a picture of this. And it's not like you can't get both, you know, they're just 5 seconds apart and you make two pictures and they get both of them.
Well, that was kind of what I was thinking, is if a normal photographer, I'm sorry, Andy,
little freak like you, weirdo.
Like, there is the opportunity, there are a couple of opportunities that are missed in order to get this shot, right? And obviously, maybe not obvious, but some other people might be thinking, I don't want to miss the potential greater moment here. But it's really difficult what the greater moment is. But like, you just had the first kiss. That's an incredibly panicky moment for a photographer. Did I get the first kiss? And then you're like, so the bride and groom here, they are together, and there is this nice thing that's happening here, but you're almost sacrificing it to tell this woman's
100%
story. And and it's not just this woman. You could have told this little girl here with the mum. Also very cute.
Should have probably should have changed the aperture and got on a bit better in focus, actually. So, you know, a bit of self-critique. If that was someone else I was mentoring, that's probably what I'd be saying.
But I love the fact that you didn't, and you took and not having the gallery viewed. Like, I don't know, did he sacrifice?
No, I wouldn't have done
that. Look, probably not. I'm sure you got it. And you at that point you're like, right, okay,
Yeah.
then you're looking around.
But then,
But there's still nice things
but
happening.
again, like a lot of that is like, so a lot of these like wedding things, like first kiss, first dance, cake cut, like a lot of those things, I mean, that's just an industry thing, right? That's just that. So if you speak to the couple, like that's why the whole communication with the couple is so important, because if you know them and you know that they don't give a shit about the first kiss, really, it's one of those stupid, embarrassing wedding things they've got to do, like their first dance, oh my God, we've got to,
Yeah.
So many of my clients I work with are like that. They're not really into that romantic shit. They're into just the real stuff. So some of them kind of knowing that when you go to the wedding, like maybe that I'm thinking, right, I don't have to get the first kiss for these guys. So I might swing for the fences and go for something. But in this case, for sure, I got the first kiss, because, and as well, like I said before, like it's a lot about slowing down and putting the work in first so that when the moments happen, you're in the right place to get them. So, I mean, it's simple with this first kiss. It's like put yourself in the right position because you know when it's going to happen. So it's not like it's going to catch you off guard and you're going to be in the wrong place. Like be in the right place so that to get the first kiss is as simple as just going like, you put the work in first so that it only requires a split second to actually take the picture. And then you can recompose and do this or do something different or whatever, go for reactions and things,
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's I always find it. You mentioned there's a difference between video and photos, and I feel like these little moments are things that I'm drawn to with images. And when I try to capture these moments, I do, but I find it really hard to put these in a film. Because when you're building a film, you're kind of leading towards an emotion or a point. You're leading the viewer to a point where something's going to happen. And when you sprinkle these types of shots in, it almost detracts from the build up. And I find it really
100% know what you mean. Yeah.
For someone who we only do video, and sometimes I just want to be able to take a moment and have that be just its thing by itself.
Yeah,
so
this is definitely, you want to freeze that moment. Whereas in video, it just wouldn't have had the same.
Yeah, for sure. Or in order to build it into this, like you say, into the thread of the story video, you've got to then create a whole little arc of build up of somehow, and you're going to need the audio that's going to support that. And you can't just dump that frame in. You've got to kind of build a whole mini story into their story to somehow shoehorn this 2 seconds of grandma looking bored, which is almost impossible, right? If you're working with unless you're writing a script for them, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's where when you were saying that you can't film a wedding the way you photograph it, that's where that comes in, totally.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't know. I was saying to Greg, I'm like, maybe this is the year I delve into some photography.
Do it, boys.
I'm too scared.
Good. You can start selling video and photography. You can push those prices up.
Yeah.
Business Andy Gaines is coming out now.
Andy, so many photographers out there. Our business is more referral based than anything. I don't want to feel like I'm stepping on other photographers' toes. Anyway, So obviously, this was one of the images that were should I show it? Should I keep it to 3 or should I take it to 4? And I really just wanted to know the story behind this. Why is she getting a love heart penned onto the side of her boob? I like the perspective. I like how you're really in there in the moment. But I really just want to know what the story is.
So she was getting married, obviously. That's the business we're in.
What?
Going to drop that bombshell on you right there. No. And so just as simple as she wanted, I think she had something borrowed, but she had nothing blue. So a bridesmaid grabbed a blue biro.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. And I think it was funny. They were trying to do a heart with his initials in, but when they did it, she messed up. And so it actually said something different. And it was it ended up, one of those little jokes within a joke, so in joke.
I love that.
So that's just simple as that.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how many people would be very nervous to get this close. I'm assuming this is on a 35, so you are.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
am I right here?
Probably, yeah.
It's 35. Okay. So you are pretty close to be in this point of view. Is there anything? Is this just your clients know this is how you work, so you're okay with?
Yes, I mean, it's
close,
a few things. Like this could be a whole like discussion in itself. But yeah, like, so obviously I let them know that's how I work. But one of the things about, like I said, there's unlimited coverage. So at this point, we've been there for hours, and you get, there's all sorts of things you can do. But essentially, you get in early and you get stuck in there right at the start. And for the beginning, everyone's a little bit like, this guy's a bit close, isn't it? And you push past that. And so by the time the important stuff starts to happen, physically push past it. But
physically,
but by the time the important stuff starts to happen, they are all relaxed, because you're there the whole time. It's not like you're at the other side of the room. Again, it's one of the like that you see lots of people doing. Like they hang around in the periphery, and then when something good starts to happen, they come charging in all guns blazing to try and get the picture. And all that ever does is just kill the moment. And everyone's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what? Whereas if you just sat there all the time quietly with your camera, when stuff like this starts to happen, all you've got to do is like frame it up and take the picture, and no one,
Yeah.
So it's about just being there the whole time.
This image sort of has to be that close up, because you'd lose the detail in what was going on if it was further back. Yeah, exactly.
You not see it, but it's like everything. Like you want your pictures, you want people to, like I said before, you want your pictures to make people feel, right? And the way you make people feel the pictures is by when you take the pictures, you have to feel them. And so the only way to feel what's happening is to be close. Because once you're close and in there, you can feel the emotion that's going on, if it's happy, if it's sad, if they're nervous. And, you notice that if you're in a room, if you're 100 meters away and someone's having an emotional moment, you don't really care because you're at the other side of the room. Whereas if you're handshaking distance away, if you can reach out and touch them, then you feel the emotion. It's just empathy, you feel that. And so that's where you really want to be to take the pictures, because that's going to translate then into the work.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. I love the way you described your process there, kind of lingering on the periphery, like Andy,
like a weird.
I'm here,
or
like behind someone's back.
With one of those like massive long lenses, trying to be like subtle, just in the No, none of that.
Oh, amazing!
I need to move out of the way for this image.
Oh yeah, so right, so this image, there's a couple of things. One. The bolt of lightning with the couple framed beautifully is like timed perfection. But I grabbed this from your Instagram post. You were like, I'm not sure whether to post this on Instagram. Does it work? I'm not sure. So my first question, Andy, is did this image work for you on Instagram?
Don't even know, to be fair. I'm going to have to like my wife actually writes the Instagram post. And I think it was because it's such a tiny person that I think that was what that was about. I don't know. I don't even know if it worked on Instagram, but yeah, this is crazy. So this was a wedding a few years ago, like a while ago now. And it was like a 2-day wedding. So this is kind of not normally so it was like a 2-day wedding. It was like an Indian English wedding, like a high fusion wedding, if you like. So they had they'd have a day of English things and another sort of day of, Hindu kind of celebrations, but it was a really small wedding. And so after the first day had finished, there was like, it was just total like down tools. So it wasn't like a full day. There was a whole evening of like nothing happening. Does that make sense? And we were all in this house. They were staying in this house together. And so late at some point in the evening, there was this like crazy storm, and literally it was in like nothing you've ever seen, loads of lightning. And so we actually went out. Does that make sense? So this was a bit, this is not, feels a bit of a cheek. It's not really like a wedding day. You know what I mean? It wasn't like total look, if you like. It was like, there's a bit of luck, but it was like, there was no way you could have got this on the wedding day in like the 5-minute portrait window.
A bit of luck, Andy. You've literally got a spike of lightning. Perfectly
but you know when it's like long exposure. So you just, there was like hundreds of frames. It was basically like, go stand over there. Again, it was like the insert couple thing. And it was go stand over there and let's just stand there and I'll shout when it's time to go. And so I think the exposures were like maybe a second, or like they were like long exposures. And so it's just a case of stand very still, and I was just literally just like hammering like constant like exposure, and trying to catch a bolt of lightning. That's so. Yeah.
All right.
Again,
You had this. You had it in mind.
What's that?
You had trying to get the lightning in mind.
Yeah. No, it was there was like a crazy thunderstorm in the distance. So that was like, yeah. But like I said, you would never be able to do that on a wedding day. Well, I wouldn't, But that's what I mean. It's another one of those portrait images from a whole conversation about like the importance of real wedding moments.
Yeah. Well, I really like this image. Obviously, you can feel it. Plus, the framing is lovely. But yeah, very cool. I'm always interested by how people capture lightning because in my head I was like they had to push the shutter at the exact right moment. But actually,
no. Yeah, literally that, and then
I guess another mindset would be like burst mode maybe, but
yeah. So it's not as like crazy lucky as you think, and also like a lot of work because it's really hard because obviously with that you'd set like your exposure with no lightning, right? So you're sort of getting an ambient exposure, but then when like every time. Like if you're shooting thunderstorms, every time the lightning strikes, the light's so bright that potentially it's killed the original exposure you've got. So there was a lot of work in post, I think, to kind of kill, like calm it all down and stuff. Or, some of the shots with other lightning strikes didn't work because they were too bright and it was like the cloud all lit up, like the sheet lightning or whatever, So like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's what videographers feel like when photographers are going flash crazy. Just like, oh man, the frame's just
you get those like weird these weird like lines going up the screen, right?
Yeah.
What a nightmare.
In fact, what was the what's that camera that just came out that's got global shutter? Would that be the same for a video?
Is it the A9?
Oh, the new is it the A9 III or something or A9 IV or something?
A9 III, yeah. Do you think on a technical level does that happen on video? Is that a video global shutter?
It solves it for a video, yeah.
That's got some like shutter speed and flash thing going on, right? Like you can use any shutter speed with flashes or I don't know. Something
like that. Yeah.
Like instead of writing to the sensor frame like line by line, it just captures it all at once. So it helps with the flash.
A real camera.
And it fixes like flickering and stuff, right? Funny with it. So what's that? The A9 III or something? A9
III.
I've got an A9 too, but they really should just call it. Why is it not the A93? Like the road to Cheltenham or something. Like, A9 III, the A93. Surely it should be. They need to work on their branding a bit more.
I mean, I've mentioned to Greg on multiple occasions that Sony. I mean, they did well with their cinema cameras. They've started actually giving them names instead of like A927563. Great.
See, people moan about this, but I think if they called it like the Helix or something, people would be like, "Oh, how pretentious! What's that? Where does that come from?" I think they'd moan about it no matter what.
So you're the fucking problem. God damn, you're a goddamn.
They should just keep it simple. They should just call it. They should just call it like Jeff or something. Give it an actual name. Gary.
I would love that.
Got the new Sony model, Gary.
That's right.
Jeff and Gary. That's what I'm going to call my two cameras.
Dave, Jeff.
Gary. Wow. Just all guys you meet in the pub. What's that? Anyway, Andy, I'm looking at the desk here. Let's wrap it up because obviously that's 2 hours and
always ask if you get any book recommendations for our listeners, whether that be business or photography.
Book recommendations.
What's a book?
I really like The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. That's a newish one that's come out. Rick Rubin, the record producer.
Yeah.
That's really loving that. I should really big up our friends, my friends Dom and Liam from York Place Studios. They've actually written a book on wedding photography, and people are raving about that. So I should probably I think it's called "Is This Something?" I should probably rave about that. That's a book. Other than that, Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. I recommend everyone should read that. That's probably my favorite book. There you go. So yeah, 3 books.
Cool.
Very cool. Is this something seemingly insignificant? What's this? £50?
A bargain.
£50 for that book? If
I imagine.
anyone's-
Yeah.
I mean,
And if you're
yeah.
listening, Dom and Liam, I'll take my cut.
Ooh.
Cheers.
Yeah, us too.
Affiliate link. You won't be able.
The question is, can you get it on
I don't know if you
Amazon?
get it on Amazon.
I don't
You
know.
guys won't be able to read it because you'd be too jittery from all the free coffee you'll have been given from that sponsorship we just worked out earlier on.
Yeah.
That's right. Anyway, if you're interested, go take a wee wander over there and check out that book. Looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Ian Weldon's book. We actually did get a copy of it. Thank you, Greg, because you actually bought it and it arrived at my desk all nice and pretty. So yeah.
Oh yeah, people.
It's good fun.
Maybe making books is going to be the new wedding trend. That's two wedding books now that we've just talked about. Like, I didn't, I thought there was like an old thing. Like when I started, you would buy a book, to learn something. Like who used to make books?
Yeah.
Like famous. Jose Villa had one. You remember? Jose Villa. He had
Jose Villa.
He had a book. I bought that book and I was learning. So yeah, maybe books is maybe 2024 is the year of the book. I want to make a book.
The year of the book. I mean, the funny thing is, we're saying book, and it is a book, but it's again, it's a dyslexic's dream because there's no words in photography books. It's wonderful. It's a goddamn joy.
Some simple pictures to enjoy. Yeah.
Anyway, simple. Actually, a picture has 1,000 words, metaphorically speaking. Anyway, Andy, I'm sorry. As I slowly start to lose my mind, I'm going to thank you. Where can people find you online?
My website, andygaines.com, and my Instagram, Andy Gaines Photography, I think. I'm certain it's Andy Gaines Photography. Andy Gaines Photography. I'm on there. You can have a dig around. And if anyone's interested in like talking about mentoring and that kind of stuff, just ping me an email or drop me a message.
Mm-hmm.
The kids say slide into my DMs, I do believe. Oh, right.
I don't think they do anymore.
Yeah. In 2020, old man, granddad. Yeah, my bad.
And also Andy Gaines, ultra marathon YouTube channel. Surely no pains, no gains. Come on, that has to be a thing.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, also check out 9 Dots as well, which is 9-dots.co. So that's got a lot of training stuff on it. Memberships, online content, free stuff, events, meetups, conferences.
Andy, am I right in saying that 9 Dots is going to Cornwall?
Yeah. So we do like loads of stuff. So we've always had a big like event in November, the 9 Dots gathering every year. That's in Manchester this year, and then we do all sorts of other stuff throughout the year as well, like meetups and days and event stuff. And we've got we're having like a retreat in Cornwall in April. So that's kind of a smaller thing. So there's like I think there's about 35 places on that, and I think they're all sold out, but there might be a couple free. I think we changed the capacity, so there's a couple of spaces.
Well, this is great. I've been hassled, Andy. Unfortunately, I won't be able to go, but there is a ticket that Lynn Kennedy has that she can't go either. So if this podcast, and maybe I'll cut this and release it quicker so that someone can get hold of the ticket and not wait, like this message will be a couple of months down the road by the time it gets released. But Lynn Kennedy has a ticket, and I think some people are wanting to get rid of the ticket to someone who actually wants to go.
I actually know this is incredible. This is like one of those like, let's make it happen, internet. Let's put it out to the world and let's see if we can make the stars align.
Connect with us.
Exactly,
we'll connect you with Lynn.
So Lynn was going to come, but she can't come, so she's got a ticket that she wants to get rid of. I don't believe there's, and that's I don't think there's any more available. So you should get Lynn's ticket. It's going to be awesome, and it's going to be great. It's like 4 days in this luxury kind of cottage complex. You get your own room, private room. You get food looked after with us as like a chef. It's well swish. I'm going to be well outside my comfort zone because it's very swanky. It's very above like my usual standard of accommodation. And we've got talks, and there's all sorts of things going on, as well as extracurricular, like activities people can do. And there's going to be some like workshop sessions and some mentor sessions. And come down, leave a better person.
Very exciting stuff. I wish I could go, but we've got too many workshops going to this well, hang on. I've not actually asked Greg. Sarah's like, what's
What?
Greg going to say? Can you buy me Lynn's ticket and I'll go to Cornwall?
Oh, I don't know.
Play your cards right.
I'm working on it,
Lucky,
Sarah.
Simon.
I'm working on it. I hope so. I'd love to go. I would. But yes, there you go, Sarah. Are you happy now? I'm trying to force Greg to buy me a ticket. Anyway, you can find us at Perspective by Cinemate on our YouTube and that. Thank you very much to With Jack for sponsoring. If you don't have any wedding insurance, definitely hit up Ashley Baxter. She's very, very passionate and very good. I've never seen anyone fight for claims to be actually paid out for people. And it's quite a joy to watch when she's on the phone. She's a feisty lady, man. And if you have loved this conversation, please do hit that subscribe button on our YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. We hope to see you in the next one. However,
In the meantime,
enjoy your life.